Welcome back, Cowboys Nation. There's never a dull moment in Dallas, and this week has been a roller coaster of emotions for fans, coaches, and players alike. The Cowboys have just received both good and bad news regarding several key names on the roster: DeMarvion Overshown, Shavon Revel, Perrion Winfrey, and even something involving Jerry Jones that's got the entire fanbase buzzing. This isn't just your typical mid-season update, it's a snapshot of where the team's heart, future, and leadership stand right now as the Cowboys continue to fight their way through one of the most unpredictable NFL seasons in years. Let's start with the name that fans have been talking about for months: DeMarvion Overshown. The young linebacker, who many pegged as one of the breakout defensive stars for the season, has had his fair share of adversity since entering the league. After missing his rookie season with a devastating ACL tear, Overshown came into training camp this year with a chip on his shoulder, determined to prove that he wasn't just a depth piece, he was a future cornerstone of the Dallas defense. Reports coming out of the star in Frisco had been glowing. Coaches raved about his speed, instincts, and leadership, calling him the kind of player who changes the tone of a defense. But then, as fate would have it, the Cowboys received a mixed update this week that left fans both hopeful and anxious. The good news is that Overshown has made significant progress in his recovery and has even started taking limited reps during team practices. According to team sources, he's moving fluidly and showing none of the stiffness that often lingers after ACL surgery. The Cowboys training staff has been cautious, but they've also been impressed by how quickly he's regained his explosiveness. Linebackers coach Scott McCurley reportedly told a few insiders that Overshown looks like he never left. That's huge for a defense that's been struggling with consistency in tackling and coverage over the middle of the field. The Cowboys' linebacking core has been solid, but without Overshown's sideline-to-sideline speed, there's been a noticeable gap in pursuit angles, especially against mobile quarterbacks. Now here comes the tough part, the bad news. Despite his recovery progress, the Cowboys are still not ready to activate Overshown for full contact play. Team doctors have advised another few weeks of strengthening and conditioning to ensure he doesn't risk a re-injury. It's a smart move, but one that stings for fans who are hoping to see him back in action soon, especially with the upcoming stretch of critical games that could decide playoff seeding. Mike McCarthy said in a recent media session that DeMarvion's doing everything right, but we're going to protect him from himself. That statement pretty much sums up the situation. Overshown wants to be on the field yesterday, but the Cowboys are playing the long game. It's bittersweet, but if keeping him out a little longer means having him healthy for the postseason, most would agree it's worth the wait. Next up, let's talk about Shavon Revel, one of the newer names to make waves in the Cowboys locker room. The undrafted rookie cornerback out of Tarleton State has quietly become one of the most talked about practice squad stories this year. When Dallas picked him up, not many expected much, just another camp body, right? But Shavon has turned heads with his length, ball skills, and work ethic. Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator, reportedly loves what he's seeing from the young corner, saying that Revel plays with heart and hustle that reminds me of a young Trayvon Diggs. That's no small compliment. The good news for Revel is that he's finally getting recognition from the coaching staff. With several injuries in the secondary, the Cowboys have been forced to shuffle their defensive backs, and Revel's name has been floating around as a possible call-up to the active roster. Insiders close to the team have hinted that the Cowboys may elevate him soon, especially if he continues to impress in coverage drills and special teams assignments. That's a huge opportunity for a player who's been grinding for a chance to prove himself on the big stage. However, the bad news is that Revel's path to a permanent roster spot is still steep. With Jordan Lewis, Darren Bland, and Stephon Gilmore holding down the cornerback positions, there's little room for error. One shaky performance could send him back to the practice squad. But if there's one thing that stands out about Revel, it's his resilience. Coaches say he studies film like a veteran and has been shadowing Gilmore after practices to learn the finer points of technique and reading quarterbacks. If the Cowboys can find a way to work him into the rotation, fans might just see a diamond in the rough develop before their eyes. Now onto a name that's been a bit controversial lately, Perrion Winfrey. The defensive tackle, once seen as a high-upside player with untapped potential, has had a rocky start to his tenure with Dallas. After being signed earlier this season, hopes were high that he'd bring a spark to the interior defensive line, an area that's been inconsistent for the Cowboys this year. Winfrey has undeniable talent. He's strong, explosive, and disruptive when he's locked in. But his off-field issues and inconsistency in effort have followed him from his time in Cleveland, and it seems the Cowboys are now seeing both sides of that coin. The good news for Winfrey is that when he's on, he's really on. In recent practices, he's reportedly looked dominant, pushing through blocks and collapsing the pocket in a way that has made life difficult for the Cowboys' offensive line. Micah Parsons even mentioned that Perrion's got that dog in him. When he wants to, we just need to see it every play. That's the kind of praise that shows his teammates recognize the potential. There's no question that the Cowboys could use more depth and power inside to complement Osa Odigizwa and Motsi Smith, especially as the season grinds on and injuries start to pile up. The bad news, however, is that discipline remains an issue. Sources say that Winfrey has been late to a few team meetings and has clashed with position coaches over technique and playing time. Jerry Jones, who has always been known for giving players second chances if he believes in their talent, reportedly had a private conversation with Winfrey about professionalism and consistency. While the Cowboys aren't giving up on him, the leash is getting shorter. If Winfrey can't lock in mentally and deliver consistent effort, he risks becoming yet another wasted talent in a league that doesn't wait for anyone. And speaking of Jerry Jones, it wouldn't be a Cowboys news cycle without something involving the man himself. The longtime owner and general manager is once again making headlines, this time for comments he made about the team's future and its handling of player development. During a recent interview, Jerry dropped a few hints that have fans speculating wildly. He praised the team's depth and said he's as optimistic as ever about the Cowboys' Super Bowl chances. But he also made a cryptic remark about big decisions coming this offseason. Now, whenever Jerry says something like that, it usually sets off alarms. Some insiders believe Jones is referring to potential contract extensions for key players like Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, while others think it might involve coaching decisions, especially if the Cowboys underperform in the postseason. McCarthy has done a solid job this season, but everyone knows how impatient Jerry can get when the team falls short of expectations. On top of that, there's growing chatter that Jones may be eyeing another bold off-season move, possibly pursuing a star free agent or trade target to keep Dallas in contention. One thing's for sure, when Jerry Jones starts talking about big decisions, you know something major is brewing. In the middle of all this drama, the Cowboys continue to prepare for one of the most critical stretches of their season. The energy in the building is tense but focused. Dak Prescott has been steady, CeeDee Lamb continues to be a nightmare for defenders, and the defense, anchored by Micah Parsons, remains the heart and soul of this team. But what makes this moment so compelling is how the Cowboys are balancing the highs and lows, the excitement of seeing players like Overshown and Revel on the rise, mixed with the frustration of setbacks and uncertainty around others like Winfrey. It's the duality of the Cowboys' experience, immense talent, and constant drama. As the weeks go on, fans will be watching closely to see how these storylines unfold. Will Overshown return to full strength and inject that fire back into the defense just in time for a playoff run? Will Shavon Revel get his long-awaited shot to shine on Sundays? Can Perrion Winfrey finally put it all together and become the disruptive force Dallas hoped for? And will Jerry Jones make one of his trademark headline-grabbing moves before the season is out? There are more questions than answers right now, but one thing is certain: this Cowboys team is at a crossroads, and every decision from here on out will shape their identity for years to come. So buckle up, Cowboys fans. The coming weeks are going to bring as much drama as they do excitement. The blend of good and bad news surrounding these players is just part of the larger story, one of a team that's fighting not only opponents on the field but also the pressures, expectations, and challenges that come with being America's team. If Overshown and the rest of these young stars can overcome their obstacles, the Cowboys might finally have the right mix of talent and toughness to make a serious Super Bowl push. But if not, well, as Jerry Jones himself might say, there's always next year, and there's always another headline. That's the latest from inside the Cowboys camp, a blend of optimism, frustration, and unshakable hope that defines every season in Dallas. If you enjoyed this deep dive into what's happening with Overshown, Revel, Winfrey, and Jerry Jones, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. We've got plenty more Cowboys coverage coming your way, and you won't want to miss a single episode as this wild season unfolds.